This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for another review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This episode number 2 is The Star-Spangled Man. And we finally get to know John Walker, the new Captain America, and the fallout and the feelings between Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson now that he's given up the shield. And here with me to talk about that is my good friend Skip Atosh. How you doing, Skip?
Very good. Always excited to come on to Thinking Critical and talk anything with Wes, but this show has been pretty interesting. So happy to be here. Happy to be talking about it.
So the second issue, in my opinion, it's still good. I still recommend it. It definitely takes a bit of a step back. It's a little clunky here and there, and I definitely think the CGI effects during the big action scene didn't seem quite as smooth as the ones as the CGI in the very first episode. But we'll get to it. There's a little bit of clunkiness that we like the scene in the first episode where he goes to the bank. Some seemed a little far fetched. That we can't give superheroes loans. It's okay that you saved everybody. Kind of thing seemed a bit odd. There was a scene similar to that to here. So just generally speaking, Skip, what do you think about the episode?
Generally speaking, I enjoyed it. Like same, not as good as episode number 1, but still overall, I enjoyed it. There was a little bit of clunkiness. I am one of those people that I didn't feel like the loan scene was as problematic, I guess, or ruffled or annoyed by it as most other people. But I think there were some things in this particular episode that were a little bit of kind of bumps in the road on what was, for the most part, a fairly smooth ride in episode number 1. And I definitely feel like the CGI was better in that episode as well, but it was to be expected. You only get one chance to make a first impression, so they had to do that. Now that they've gotten us interested, as Calvin Candy from Django, you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. So now that they have our attention, they're pulling it back, downshifting the gears on the CGI a little bit and the dynamics of the fight, but also continuing the storyline and the character moments have been my biggest investment in the series so far. So I feel like they had some pretty good beats on that front.
So let's talk about that. We'll talk about John Walker here in a second. Let's talk about the Bucky and Sam. Let's talk about the Winter Soldier and the Falcon. Now, Bucky knows that he gave up the shield. He sees that John Walker is the new Captain America, and it immediately brings in conflict. Bucky does not believe that was the right thing, and he says, Captain America Steve Rogers did not want this. He wanted you to have the shield. He wanted you to take up the mantle. And Sam thinks that he's done the right thing, and it ends up leading to they basically have a co-therapy session before Bucky's able to be released, so he can go out there and start investigating the Flag Smashers. I like the tension between the two. It's always been there when they've been in the MCU together. Yes, they are both friends of Captain America. They both help him out, but they don't exactly like each other. And I think that's a good dynamic between the two. But it does feel like they need each other as they're kind of getting over Steve Rogers and also returning from the blip, and that the world has changed so much. So I did enjoy the tension between the two, and I think that was probably the best part, the best thing going for this episode overall.
Absolutely. That was something, that carried over from Captain America 3, Civil War, the scene with them going up against Spider-Man, and some of that rapport got built there. It was really fun to watch some of those interviews and stuff and some of the different panels that they did at different cons after the fact to find out that they have a chemistry that goes beyond the camera. And they did some of the best tag team interviews in all of the MCU thus far for movies before and after the fact. So they just kind of picked up where they left off on all of that. And it works on both sides, where the comedy is that whole side. It's the, almost like stepbrothers, kind of like, having to love each other, but not like each other. And then on the flip side as well, it works on the really tense moments. They do have some deep rooted things that root back to Steve and a little bit of distrust on how both of them kind of got introduced. Bucky's hey, I've been the day one. I've been down since day one. Falcon is the new Jack on the scene, but he couldn't fully trust Bucky because Bucky was mind controlled at one point. When he first met Bucky, he was an adversary. So the reasons why they have tension are established, and then it's nice that they find a way to have some humor in the midst of it, even though it's like competing humor. So I appreciated that. Definitely the best thing that the show has going, and it should be, because it is the Falcon and Winter Soldier show.
Yes, the best joke is when Red Wing gets smashed in perfect timing by Sebastian Stan. I always wanted to do that. He was disappointed. So let's get to John Walker. I think they did a pretty good job with John Walker. They roll him out, and he's even more impressive than Steve Rogers. He's got 3 medals of honor. He's the only man ever to have that. And they go through his resume, and he's basically doing the rounds on Good Morning America, whatever, and introducing himself to America. Obviously, he looks the part. I think it's funny that they cast the stoner guy from 22 Jump Street, but whatever. That's the only thing that was in my mind when I saw him. I was like, that's the guy from 22 Jump Street. But he does look the part. He has the all-American look to him, and certainly he's been picked for a reason, because obviously the government thinks that they can control him. But he's going out there. He's trying to make the rounds, and he also mentions that he's not a super soldier, as if he's not had no enhancements. I find that part hard to believe, but I think they did do a good job establishing his credentials, and he wasn't really a bad guy. There's just a couple of moments there where I think his true nature probably shined through a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. This was the part that I was most impressed about. I think it would have been really easy for them to not get John Walker right. But I like a lot of the feedback that I've been hearing so far about how much people can't stand him, don't like the way that he looks. I had an extended conversation with one of the original aficionados, Ash on comics, about the look and everything, and it's perfect. They picked the guy that totally fits the all-American look, but at the same time is obviously a tier or two below Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Captain America. Even has some things about him that are
face too. He's got that going for him.
That was one of the main things I said. I mean, this guy's got a very punchable face. So it's like he is completely qualified from his his performance in the field. The way that he tested, as they said, they tested him like, physically and whatnot, mentally and all those things. We even saw him throw around the shield in the target practice during that Good Morning America. So it seems that he is one of those people that possess the master level tactician and quickly learns. But then you have all of the makings also that make you annoyed and make you say, you know what, he's not fit for it. There's no way this could be the person to fill the shoes. I think they did a very good job casting. As well as kind of rolling out a story. I do want to point out that there were some interesting things happening with the person that was the woman that was talking to him in the locker room at the beginning of it. They had some sort of relationship, even exchanged some I love yous. And then as she was exiting, and then Battlestar, Hoskins, aka Battlestar, was coming in, they exchanged a little bit of coded language as if they know each other too. I think there might be more than meets the eye when it comes to who she is, and then the Battlestar and hers relationship.
Maybe Battlestar isn't the plucky sidekick. Maybe he's kind of there for a reason. We know when Ed Brubaker and basically created the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes wasn't just a sidekick to Steve Rogers. He was there doing things that Steve was even unaware of. So maybe he's a plant by the government, and she's, I don't know, his controller, something like that.
Definitely a handler.
So he does show his true nature in a couple of scenes. The first one is he shows up. He and Battlestar arrive to save, essentially, Falcon Winter Soldier from the Flag Smashers. It's not going well. They save them, and he wants to talk to him. He wants him to join the team. He's like, hey, you guys need to join. They're both – Falcon Winter Soldier do not want to do that, but they do get in the vehicle. They hear him out, and it's going pretty okay. He's charming him a little bit. And then the last thing he says is, I need Steve's like wingmen with me. I need the people that were behind Captain America be behind this Captain America and affirm to America that they can trust me just like they did Steve. And that was a no-go for Bucky. Immediately stop the vehicle. I will walk to America from Germany before I hear another word from you. And of course, Falcon left as well.
Absolutely. Falcon even stated it's always that last sentence. That kind of threw them off. In an episode that had some clunkiness as far as the narrative was concerned, the progression from seeing John Walker as how are they going to take me? I'm not sure if I'm worthy. Will they accept me? Being so uncertain and being having to be encouraged by Hoskins and whoever that female character was in the locker room of his high school before he was introduced to the world as Captain America, then coming over to him having a little experience, the government empowering him starting to feel a little entitled, and then meeting those two in that encounter, coming to save them, one, feeling like he saved them and stating that, and then in addition trying to recruit them and then pushing back, and then him pushing on them a little bit with his entitlement. We're starting to see the progression of the character, and I feel like that was one of the most natural things as far as the narrative was concerned in this episode.
And then the next time, Bucky Barnes gets arrested. I thought that was silly. We'll get to that scene here in a minute. He's the one that gets him out. He uses his pole. He meets the two of them outside of the police station, and he tries to recruit him again. Falcon has a weird part where he goes, "Listen, you're an agent of the government. We're free agents. We'll do our thing. You do your thing." I'm under the impression that Falcon works for the Air Force or is closely associated with them. It seems like he's getting intelligence from them and doing missions with them. Doesn't feel like he's a free agent. Winter Soldier probably is. So I thought that was pretty clunky. It didn't make any sense. But we finally got the true nature of John Walker, and he says, "Oh yeah, stay the hell out of my way. If you get in my way, I'll go through you too. It doesn't matter if you save the galaxy or the world."
Yep, absolutely not. Again, people coming into power, want to usually protect their power and all of the benefits that come along with it. So we see, that heel turn, if you will. So yeah, like I said, probably one of the smoothest things about the narrative within this episode. And it was revealed that the reason why they got called, which I know we're going to really cover it later, but it's relevant here now. The reason why they really got called back to the police station and apprehended, initially it was thought that it was the therapist because Bucky had missed one of those sessions, but really all along it was revealed that it was him who used his government, his newly found government power to pull them back in. Again, if they're not coming willingly, manipulating them and using force to pull them over to the team, to put pressure on them and put them in a corner to submit and then ultimately join his team. So that was a part of the heel turn too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we've kind of talked about those dynamics. We do get a better understanding, not a great understanding, of the Flag Smashers. They are super soldiers. Where did they come from? Did they come from the U.S. government? Obviously, that created Steve Rogers, or did they come maybe from Hydra, who had their own array of super soldier assassins, obviously, that were being kept on ice? That was a major part in the Captain America Civil War narrative. So that's kind of the big thing. There was a couple of cool Easter eggs in there. The one character that turns out she's the leader, Carly, I can't remember the last name. It's the name of essentially a female version of the name of the male character that was the first Flag Smasher. His name was Carl. So that was a good Easter egg. But that's kind of the question here. And as I'm watching this, I hear that these are the villains, but they do not seem villainous. They feel like they're like underground freedom fighters that are trying to get medicine to people that have been forgotten, as they try and incorporate all the people that disappeared during the blip back into society and take care of them, and have forgotten about everyone that was left behind originally. I don't understand how they're the bad guy. I think we're going to see that they're probably just misunderstood.
Likely. I mean, of course, their means, to get to their ends are not by the book. So villains and, breaking the law, definitely they're going into places and taking things. But I agree with you. I don't think that they're going to be the ones that are the big bads. I have, and now just in this moment, formed as you were speaking, some predictions on how those things may go. Maybe we leave those for the end of of this review.
So they're trying to get to the bottom of it. They know that these are super soldiers and they're on their way. And then we get the big reveal that Isaiah Bradley exists within the MCU, Black Captain America. And they use kind of his backstory, which is quite tragic. We also get to see his grandson, who I'm assuming is Patriot, who was part of I think the Young Avengers. So there's another cool Easter egg in there. And when they meet Isaiah Bradley, they're talking, and we find out that he was like the next Captain America during the Korean War. He and Bucky Barnes had a toe-to-toe fight. He ripped half of Bucky's arm off, Bucky obviously got it replaced. And for his hard work, he was arrested for 30 years, and they did a lot of tests on him. Obviously, that falls right in line with the character in the Marvel Comics universe. And he has an interesting line where he says, maybe that's not how you people get treated, when he's talking to Bucky Barnes. And the assumption in your mind is, oh, he's talking about him because he's white. Obviously, Isaiah Bradley is a black character. It kind of harkens back to the Tuskegee Airmen. I think that's kind of what they're touching on with the origins of that character. But Bucky, he knows that's not what he's talking about. When he knew him as a Hydra agent, and he was talking about maybe that's not how Hydra agents work. And I thought that was a cool reveal.
Absolutely, yeah. It was cool how they had introduced Isaiah Bradley. I liked how he touched on the history. I just brought you in to see if you had grown half that arm back that I took from you when they dropped me behind the lines, to take care of you, since everybody else they sent wasn't coming back. And I really appreciated that. The tragedy within his story, come to find out that he was experimented on, since he was the one that yielded the best results. He was the one chosen for them to use. And after they were done using him, they stuck him in jail for 30 years. And within that time, they were running tests and whatnot, not treating him very much like a specimen, not like a human at all, though he had done nothing. And ultimately, yes, we do find out that the people that were doing those things, it was S.H.I.E.L.D., but S.H.I.E.L.D. was under the control of Hydra at that time. So naturally who that was. And I did like how that was a turn, like they turned it on the ear, of course, with, social commentary and everything going on right now, same thing. Like naturally I was like, oh, he's talking about him because he's white. And then come to find out, no, it's because who he was affiliated with. He was an agent of Hydra, though brainwashed. And they used that same thing. They turned that same thing on their ear in the scene that precedes this one outside, when Sam is confronting Bucky for having that information of there being another super soldier and not telling anyone until now.
Yeah, this is probably the clunkiest saying. It doesn't really work for me. It's hard for me to believe that Sam Wilson can go into a bank as a man that saved the world and brought all these people back from death, and he can't get a loan. And if he can't get a loan, that he can't go out there and, be selling cars or something, just with his likeness. He's going to be one of the most recognizable faces in the entire world. Yet in this neighborhood, the cops don't recognize him. They assume immediately that he's to blame. It works if it's not somebody as well known as that character. Then they say, "Well, I didn't recognize without the goggles." Like, come on, you know what this character looks like without the goggles? Like you're trying too hard. You just made a statement. You're kind of like ruining the moment here with this clunkiness. But of course, it does turn it on its head when they end up arresting Bucky Barnes, because he actually has an arrest warrant for him because he missed his court-ordered therapy session.
Right, yeah, missed his court-ordered therapy session, and come to find out that it wasn't the therapist that actually put out the warrant for him, like we spoke about before. It was John Walker, using his government power to manipulate things. The scene, it did work for me. I know, it's hard to believe, but there's multiple instances that are highly documented in the media of various celebrities, especially like athletes and stuff like that. I think Sterling Brown was one of the one. He was a player who played for the Minnesota, not Minnesota Timberwolves, for the Bucks, and he had been treated just that way, in a similar thing. So, and that's the other thing, it's not supposed to be on the loan side of things, and Falcon tried to avoid that. He didn't want to use his likeness. He didn't go in there and say, "Hey, I'm Falcon, give me a loan." It wasn't till the guy realized who he was that the guy changed his whole attitude about the situation, and ultimately the reason why they didn't get the loan, because the guy didn't manipulate and didn't do the wrong thing and do him a favor because of who he was. He did look at the books, and his sister's business had been losing money continually, and that's why she didn't qualify for the loan. And in this case, it was the cop who was basically, I guess, the lead cop on the scene. He's the one that didn't. Eventually his partner realized who it was, and that's when he whispered in the ear, "Hey, that's Sam Wilson. Oh, hey, I didn't realize it was you, XYZ." So there was things in there, and reasons, obviously documented in real life, as well as them putting the proper beats in the story that did make it sensible, and it did work for me.
Yeah, it seemed unnecessary within the flow of the story, and it kind of just It's like it seems like an unnecessary scene to tell what they're doing. Although I imagine one of the things that we will get revealed over time is that maybe the government wasn't comfortable with Sam Wilson taking the mantle, possibly because he's black, and they wanted somebody that had a better image as far as the government was concerned moving forward. Now, we do need to talk about these powered individuals, these super soldiers. Obviously, they did not come from the U.S. government. If they did, they would be soldiers. They are not giving the super soldier serum to non-soldiers. And there are plenty of people within that group that do not have American accents. It's an international organization. It's hard for me to think that they come from Hydra, because Hydra created their super soldiers like 40. They stole the serum from Tony Stark's dad, but then they also had captains. So it'd been a long time since they created any. Like, where do you think these super soldiers came from?
Well, the last time around that we ran into a group of super soldiers wasn't that far back in the past. It was Winter Soldier who
but they were being frozen. Do you think these were on ice and maybe they were discovered?
I don't believe so, actually. In Civil War, that was one of the things that that Zemo had revealed, is that Strucker continued after Hydra had went down, and he was doing his own experiments that included Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. Well, some of that other stuff was those super soldiers that Bucky had to like lead that technician out of, and he had to like kind of ward a bunch of them off, and ultimately like Zemo went back and killed them. And that was in more recent history because Zemo is the one that went back and did the job. So that was really current. I think that they might be stemming out of that program, because I do agree with you, that program wasn't US based. So I think that they may have a little to do with that. And I have some further predictions where I don't know if this is the time that I should talk about them or we should save them for another few minutes. Okay. So prediction, of course, not spoilers because I don't know, but these are my predictions. I have a feeling that those people ultimately tie back to that program that Isaiah Bradley was a part of. So I think it was just kind of a continuation going on.
But I believe really old, and he's American. He was a soldier.
I'm getting there. During the blip, the world as a whole decided, hey, we all need some sort of super something that we control to protect us should another event like this occur. So I think the same source that Sam Walker got his super soldier power from, the way I believe he lied and said he wasn't super powered. I think the same source that John Walker, thank you, got his powers from. I think the same thing that these Flag Smashers, but I think the Flag Smashers ended up breaking out and getting free, and they're rebelling by saying, hey, we're going to take our superpower that we have and then care for the people that were kind of forgotten about post blip.
There you go. We shall see. It's I think that's the big mystery. Where do these super soldiers come from? I imagine by the end, Isaiah Bradley is acknowledged as probably the second Captain America after Steve Rogers was put on ice. So they set the foundation for some interesting things. They didn't exactly follow up on everything that was introduced in the first episode. We've got 4 more left to tell the story. And by the end, who's going to be Captain America? Give me that.
I mean, I don't see how it's not going to be Sam Wilson. Like, I think it's pretty apparent that he is going to be Captain America by the end of it. It's definitely not going to be Bucky. They already had to secretly pardon him, and I don't see how they allow it to end up being John Walker. By the end of it, where all the pieces are put in place, I think Sam is going to be Captain America, and I think that John Walker ultimately will kind of do his 360, journey and end up being a U.S. agent.
Yeah, he's going to do his full heel turn, and then he'll have to be redeemed later.
Yeah.
All right, Skip. I appreciate the time, man. What would you rate this out on 5?
If I gave the first episode, I think I gave the first one a 9. I would give this one I gave it a 9 or 8.5. I'd give this one a 7.
Yeah, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. It's good. It's not quite as good as the first one, but we've got places to go and hopefully some more action as we keep going along.